If you're looking for places to camp in Northern California this summer, these are our favorite places. These are all dry campgrounds. They're primarily places like California State Parks, U.S. Forestry, and some different regional parks. And they're all dry campgrounds, which tend to be our favorite. We've noticed the dry campgrounds that we've been to focus more on nature and less on amenities. They're not going to have the full hookup that you'd find at an RV park. So it's not going to have electrical and water and all those conveniences for your trailer, but the sites are typically larger, there's less people, there's more hiking, there's more stuff to do outdoors. And so that's really what we enjoy and what we look for when we're looking for a campsite. Plus, we've done enough upgrades to our solar system that when we're dry camping, we're not exactly roughing it. So if you're interested to see what we've done to our trailer to make it really convenient for us to go to these dry campgrounds, I'll add a link below to the different solar upgrades that we've done. So here are our 7 favorite dry campgrounds for this year in Northern California. So number 7 is Spring Lake Regional Park in Santa Rosa, California. Now, this campground does seem like it's right in the middle of a town. You actually go through a residential section to get to the campground entrance. But once you're in there, it's a beautiful campground and it does not feel like you're right in the middle of town. And although you do drive through a residential area to get to the campground, there are no crazy roads that you need to go down to get there. It's really an easy drive and easy to get to. It is right next to a lake that from the campground, you can take a trail and walk all the way around the lake. It's a little over 2 miles and the entire trail is paved. It's great for kids, for strollers. It's also dog friendly. That is one of the great things about this campground is the trails are dog friendly, the campground is dog friendly. It's a really easy place to go with your dog. And although it is a dry campground, there is a dump station, which makes it convenient. The sites are also very large. Now, there is no real privacy from pretty much any site. You could see the entire campground. But even though there isn't any illusion of seclusion, you do still have a large site and a nice space for the kids to run around and just relax at camp. And since you're so close to town, there is good cell coverage as well. Next on the list is Woodside Campground at Salt Point State Park. This is in Jenner, California. Now this campground is great because it is beautiful. You have nice tall trees. You are right across from the ocean. So if you'd like to go to the beach, it is a short drive away. And the sites are very large. There are 2 loops. The upper loop seems to have the larger and more private sites. But so far, we've only stayed on the lower loop and we've been very happy with that as well. The sites have been large, and even though you are close to your neighbors, there's enough trees and bushes in the way that it definitely gives the illusion of seclusion. Now, what we don't like about this campsite is you do have to take Highway 1 to get there, and it is kind of a crazy stretch of Highway 1, so the road isn't especially fun to drive on. There also is no dump station. And like most California state parks, the trails are not dog friendly. Now there are a few paved paths near the beach in the Gressel Cove campground that dogs can go on. And the dog is allowed in the campground, so you can walk on the roads, all the paved areas. But the majority of the trails you cannot take a dog on. We felt like there was enough to keep us occupied, but we did also feel like we were missing out on a whole lot of what looked to be pretty cool trails because they're not dog friendly. And the last time we visited this site, it seems that they have added a cell tower because we had a great cell signal, which was not the case in prior years. Number 5 is Russian Gulch State Park in Mendocino, California. So this place was really beautiful and we really liked it because we had good tree coverage, so we had lots of shade, plus it was just beautiful. But then we also had beach access, so it's right on the beach. So we felt like we had the best of both worlds with good trees and the beach. We were also very happy with how dog friendly it was. The dog was allowed on the beach, no problem. And although the dog wasn't allowed on all of the trails, most of the trails there were dog friendly. So we were very happy with that. We were able to take our dog to the beach and we also could do some hiking there. Now, the downsides of Russian Gulch is the sites were pretty small. We had no issues getting our trailer into the site we had, which was campsite 13, but a lot of the sites there would be really difficult to get a trailer into. Also, there aren't too many sites there that have very much privacy. Most of them, you're looking at your neighbors. There's also a pretty crazy road that you have to go on to get into the campground. Now, it's after the park entrance, so you're technically in the state park. It's just as you're navigating to the campground, there is one road that is a single lane on a blind curve. And when we first saw that, it didn't seem like the best thing to be towing a trailer down, but it was totally fine. We had no issues with it. Since you're in the state park, people drove really slow on that road. We even walked on it to get to one of the trails that we went to. And it was fine. It turned out to not be an issue, but it was a little intimidating at first. There is also no dump station there, and there is no cell coverage. Okay, number 4 is MacKerricher State Park in Fort Bragg, California. Fort Bragg in general was a really cool place to go camping, and MacKerricher was a great place to stay. What we really liked about it was being right on the coast. There is a beautiful boardwalk trail that you could walk along that goes down the coastline, and it has a couple of really nice lookout areas. There's one area that goes down so you could go right on the beach, and then another area that goes out to a platform that you could do some whale watching, or we mostly saw sea lions. The trail was beautiful, it was easy, and it was dog friendly. It was a really nice spot to go. And while the campsites are not large, there is enough bushes and just shrubbery around each site that it feels private, even though you do have neighbors right on the other side of those bushes. There's also a dump station, which is pretty convenient, and it has decent cell coverage. Number 3 is Wright's Beach in Bodega Bay, California. This is part of the Sonoma Coast State Park, and this is a pretty difficult campground to get into. There are not very many sites there. I think there's less than 30, and 10 of them are premium sites, and they are right on the beach. Now, this is the closest that we have ever camped to the beach in California, in Northern California specifically. We didn't get one of the sites that was right on the beach, but it is still right there. It is so beautiful, and it is so easy to grab your chairs, your beach toys, blanket, whatever you want, and just take it right to the beach. You don't have a big hike. You're just going right there. You're already at the beach. The beach is not only right there, but it is also completely dog friendly. There are a couple of trails there, and they are not dog friendly, but for us, we were okay with that because we were really there to visit the beach, and the dog was allowed on the beach. So we were very happy with that. So that is what we really loved about that campground, is just the location. It's easy to get to, and you're right on the beach. The sites are not large, and there is no privacy. It is a small campground, and everybody is pretty squished in there. There's also no dump station, and there's really no cell coverage. If you go out on the beach far enough, you can get a little bit of cell coverage, but it's pretty spotty. But all of that just feels so worth it because you're camping right there at the beach, and it's just great to be so close. Sunsets, sunrises, it's just all beautiful. Number 2 is Doran Beach, also in Bodega Bay, California. So this is really similar to the third one, except it's a lot bigger campground. Reservations can still be tough there, and they book a year out, so you really have to plan ahead. But it's another campground that's right on the beach and pretty easy to get to. So they don't actually have sites that are directly on the beach like Wright's Beach has, but the campground is long and narrow, and all on one side of it, you have the beach, and all on the other side, you have the Bodega Harbor. So really, no matter what site you're at, you have a view of either the harbor or you could see the ocean. You can hear it wherever you are. It's very close. So even though you're not camping directly on the beach, you're just walking over a really short path to get there. It's still close enough that taking beach toys, a chair, or even a small cooler is no big deal. One of the great things about this campground is it is very dog friendly. It is a Sonoma County regional park, and the majority of the Sonoma County regional parks are very dog friendly. So this one, you can have the dog on the beach, you can have the dog on the trail, you can have the dog in the campground. It's really easy to camp there with a dog. There is a trail there at the campground. It's about 2 miles one way, and it goes along the coastline. Now, the sites are small. There are a lot of sites in a small area. They've kind of tried to fit as many people as they can, and with how booked out this place is, that does seem like a good call, but consequently, you just don't have too much space. Now, even though they're not too large, there are still several sites that feel pretty private. There are a few different campground areas there. And the Jetty campground area, which on the map I thought would be the best sites, those ones actually seem to be the smallest and the least private. The sites in the Cove, Gull, and Shell campground areas, those ones have more shrubs, more trees, and so those sites, although they're also pretty small, many of them do feel kind of private just because there's enough trees and stuff blocking your neighbors from your view. There is also a dump station there, and there's pretty good cell coverage. Before we get to number 1, there were 2 honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list, but I still wanted to share them with you. The first is Sugarloaf State Park in Kenwood, California. Now, when we went there, we got a premium site. It was a little bit more expensive than the regular site, but definitely worth it. It was a massive site, definitely the largest site that we have ever stayed at a California state park, but also possibly the largest site we've ever stayed at ever. There were basically 3 different levels to camp. The top levels where we parked the trailer and had the picnic tables. There were 2 picnic tables there. And then there was another level under that had a large flat area. And then below that, there was a creek. This creek ran all throughout the campground, but this area behind our site felt like our own private access to that creek. The kids loved it. We spent basically the whole day there. They were just playing around in that creek, and we really didn't see any other people. It felt very private, very secluded. So that was just great. The kids really had a great time there. We had so much space. The downsides is it's a California state park. So like most of them, dogs were not allowed on any of the trails. They have a couple of pretty cool trails there, but we did not get to try them because we always camp with our dog. There's also no dump station. And then there's also a pretty crazy road that you have to take to get into it. After you leave the main road, when you're going to the campground entrance, that road there was a little twisty and narrow. And then when you get to the campground, there's a really, really large dip that you have to go over to get into the campground. So the roads were not great. It wasn't very dog friendly, other than dogs being allowed at camp. And there also was no cell coverage at all. But the premium sites there are amazing. They are very large and very private, which is not always easy to find in a California state park. The next honorable mention is Nevada Beach in Zephyr Cove, Nevada. So the big reason why this one didn't make the list is because it's not in California. If this had been in California, it probably would have been number 1. This is right near South Lake Tahoe, and it is an amazing campground. On one side of the campground, you have Lake Tahoe. On the other side of the campground, you have a nature trail with miles that you can walk through. There's one big loop and there's a bunch of different paths within that loop. So we walked there multiple times and took a different path each time. The kids rode their bike once. We had a great time no matter which path we took. It was also very dog friendly. There was a portion of the beach that was not dog friendly, but they clearly marked where you needed to go to access the pet-friendly beach. So that was no problem. And the hiking trail was all dog-friendly. There was another trail across the road that we did not go to that was not dog-friendly, but still, there was more than enough for us to do to stay busy. You're also only minutes away from South Lake Tahoe. So even though you're camping and it feels like you're so far from everything, you can still just drive down the road and go to dinner or go to a casino. There's a lot to do. The sites were pretty large. We had plenty of space, but there really isn't very much privacy. You have enough space that it doesn't feel like a problem, but you can still definitely see your neighbors right through the trees. There was no dump station. But since you're so close to town, there was great cell coverage. We had 5G through the entire campground. So if you like the South Lake Tahoe area, this place is a must-see. You don't have to leave the campground to be able to play at Lake Tahoe or go on a hike. We definitely plan to keep going back there year after year. Okay, now time for number 1. Our number 1 favorite dry campground in Northern California this year was Hendy Woods State Park in Philo, California. We've gone to Hendy Woods multiple times, and whenever we're there, it just feels like camping. It is in a redwood grove, and you are just surrounded with trees. The sites are large, most of them feel pretty private, and our kids have endless fun just walking on the tree stumps, walking on logs, finding sticks. They just love playing around the redwoods. Now, it is a California state park, and as we've mentioned a couple times, it does not have dog-friendly trails. They do have lots of hiking trails, and that is my one big gripe about this place, is just that they're not dog-friendly. But we still love it. We still have a great time. And when we go there, we know that we're going to spend most of the time hanging out at camp. We walk around the campground because that's where you could walk with the dog. The kids bring their bikes. They ride their bikes around the campground. We relax and we have fun. We also go just down the street to Anderson Valley Brewing. You can pack a lunch and go get some beers. There are 2 different loops there. We prefer the Wildcat loop. It seems to be a little bit more spread out than the Azalea loop. But no matter which loop we're on, which site we are, we have been happy with every site that we've had there. There's always lots of little areas for the kids to explore, and everyone in our family always ends up having a great time. So I hope that helped and gave you an idea or two of some good places that you can go camping this year. If you want more information on any of those campsites that we just went over, we'll add links in the description for full reviews of every single one of those campgrounds. So each review includes a video kind of showing how our visit was there. And then we also have a written review that kind of gives the good and the bad, and it also outlines what our favorite campsites were in that campground. If you have any ideas of great dry campgrounds in Northern California that we didn't include in this list, please add it to the comments. We'd love to know about them. Happy camping, everyone.